November 28th, 2025. I'm Connie Barlow, and this is the 4th episode in my Pawpaw series here in southern Michigan. I am rooted here in southern Michigan. I'm the 6th generation colonizing culture here, and this is about the farthest north that Pawpaw has as its native range. At first I was working really just on trying to identify the pollinators, to ensure that people who are orchardists have the best ways to know who the pollinators are so they know how to be able to attract them. And what I've been doing for the past 3 summers is a minimalist approach to ecological restoration here in the Ypsilanti, Michigan area, post-industrial, lost our auto industry quite a long time ago. And so the bottomlands along the Huron River here have been really decimated and are recovering now, but they're just filled with invasive species, so-called invasive species. I like the indigenous name for them, newcomers, and let's see how they work. The 2 that you'll see that I've been presenting on are Amur honeysuckle, Linicera macii, and a species of Asian privet, which are the 2. And so Pawpaw, as a subcanopy woody tree, native here, I'm putting into patches in order to be able to see if it can use its clonal capabilities of sending out underground stems, sometimes 10, 15 feet away, to be able to ultimately come up after I weed a patch of privet and come up and overtop the woody invasive plants, the Amur honeysuckle and the privet. So what I'm doing in this 4th episode is that it's the final round for 2025 of what I'm doing for wrapping up the autumn. And really I've been learning a lot all along the way. I keep learning about new ways to work with this species and to work with our native herbivores in this area. So what you're going to be seeing here, it's a little under an hour, this episode here, but it's going to be running from about September 29th chronologically all the way up to just a few days ago. And again, this is November 28th. So it's really the fall, heading into winter. And it's mostly chronological, but there'll be about a dozen sections to it that I'll have titled, and I'll put time-coded access to it in the caption, so you can just go to whatever section you want. This is pretty technical here. The first section was recorded October 28th this year, and the location is just about a half-mile walk from here. I'm car-free. My husband died 2 years ago, and so I'm living a very simple life in a small rental apartment here in the historic district. And I'm so fortunate to have a beautiful old cemetery where I actually have some distant cousins that are buried there. And that goes down into the old industrial bottomland of recovering forest. And that's where I've been doing weeding and planting. This year, what was it that I recorded? Something around 1,400 germinated pawpaw seeds I planted this summer. And so what you're going to see here is preparations for the fall, how I'm working with the patches that I've already put on, and how I'm adapting to deer. Deer are dominant here. They don't have predators. I've heard some coyotes, but we're in a city, okay, so there isn't any hunting here. So it's mostly chronological, these dozen sections, and the first one is recorded October 28th on location, and you'll see the beautiful cemetery entrance, and then walking beyond there to where the forest starts off and then goes down into the bottomland. And the bottomland is where I've been working and planting, and that's where the invasives are just dominant, incredibly dominant. So that's October 28th. The next section will be November 2nd, and there you're going to see me that I've dug a pit for winter stratification of 650 pawpaw seeds. Again, these are pawpaw seeds, they're very large. But the first set that I got from the orchardist up in Midland, Michigan, which is up around in this section of Michigan. I live down in this area here. And 650 seeds, they have to stratify through the winter. They need to feel the cold, and then in the spring they'll be able to germinate, but I'll dig them up first. So that's November 2nd. You're going to see me doing that. Then I'll move back to September 29th because I want to show that when I started working on this, I knew pawpaw, the stems, the leaves, the seeds, everything was just incredibly poisonous, except the fruit that had co-evolved with megafauna. And of course humans can eat that too, and possums, and raccoons, and black bears, and everything loves that fruit. But I had assumed that because the stems and the leaves are poisonous, that all I needed to do was plant germinated seeds, up come the seedlings, and everything's fine. No, no. Deer, rabbits, I don't know exactly who the herbivores are, but remember, there aren't any pawpaw right in this bottomland anymore. I have visited a wild patch that's about 30 miles from here, gorgeous patch in the bottomland along the Huron River. But these creatures have never experienced this plant here in their lifetime. And so, of course, they're curious. At least that's my understanding of why they keep nipping these things off. So you're going to see how I'm adapting this fall with an experiment to try to make sure that no more nipping goes on. Photosynthesis was almost over, and I want to keep that apical bud at the top of the stem from being eaten off, because then it has to restart growth next spring lower. No. So you're going to see that happening there. Let's see. So that was September 29th, where you're going to see how bad the herbivores can be for curiously nipping things off. I can't imagine they're swallowing these things. And then we'll go to October 31st, where actually you're going to see that I'm trimming off the remaining leaves, October 31st, so we're close to the end of photosynthesis here in southern Michigan. And so I'm trying to clip them off with scissors so that nothing can see them anymore, such that that apical bud won't be eaten back. At least that's my hypothesis. And then I'm going to quickly scoot back to October 11th for just less than 2 minutes, just to show how one of my weeded and planted patches has now become a deer trail. Okay, I keep learning. I weed a patch, but it might induce deer to think, ah, new trail, I'll go take it. So I'm learning all along the way, and I'm sure I still have a lot of things to learn. And then we go back to October 31st and finishing off. I've got so many patches. I mean, in terms of sub-patches within, I've probably got about 25 or 30 in here. So you're not going to see them all, but just some of the main ones where you're going to see me clipping off the leaves. Okay, so that's October 31st. And, oh yeah, 2 days later, on November 2nd, I'm going to return to a trail that I actually saw another place where I saw a deer starting to go through. And I found out that it's actually a place I want to go through too for next spring, being able to plant more pawpaw and weeded patches. It's really good. So you'll see me finishing off of trying to keep the deer going through this patch, but not going off to the sides where I already have pawpaw going on. And so that, again, that's what you're going to see me doing right after that. And then November 7th, we get our first snow. And so I'm going to go back through and take a look at the patches, and sure enough, you know, the leaves that I did not cut off of the little pawpaws, they're all dying, all right? But it's just good to see that. Then I'm going to backtrack back to November 5th. Again, first snow was November 7th. I'm going to backtrack to November 5th and just show, a 2-minute video of my brother and me, Marc Boone. Now this is the biggest, probably the biggest pawpaw orchard in Michigan. He's just off of Ann Arbor, so it's not far from here. And my brother and I went there on November 5th. It was cold, well after harvest time. And Marc allowed us to pick up some of the rotten fruit. I don't pick them all up because the important pollinators, to make sure that fruit can come from the flowers, have their larvae in the underside of the rotting fruit late into the fall. And so didn't pick all up those, but there were also some green fruit that had fallen. And then I simply have to wait a couple weeks for them to rot here in the house, enough for me to reach in and extract seeds. So you'll see that November 5th, just very short, in the Ann Arbor area, my brother and me doing that. Oh, and then the very next day, thank gosh, it was sunny, and so you'll see me out on the south-facing covered porch here. Really grateful to have a south-facing porch in the wintertime. And I didn't want to extract from the most rotten fruit. I didn't want to do it indoors because there was mold on that. So I did it outside. I was able to get through all the rotten ones outside on that very sunny day. That was November 6th. And let's see, okay, so November 6th, and then moving on to November 23rd. Again, today's November 28th, but moving on to November 23rd, you're going to see me planting 1,500 seeds that came from what my brother and I had collected from Marc Boone's orchard here in southern Michigan. And so you'll see me digging another pit for winter stratification on the slope just alongside the bottomland. And that wasn't all of the seeds from Marc Boone's. Here's the rest. Now, they've already been extracted. I actually like the smell, but it's getting a little bit like vinegar in here. But it needs a major final cleaning. You know, this was just extracting them from all the pulp, just doing that. But once I do this, it's going to be quite cold for about a week or so, so I'm not going out there to do another pit. But I will clean them off a little at a time. There'll probably be more than 1,000 there. And then at some point when it gets warmer again, I'll go back out there, dig another pit, and this is the final stratification going on. So, and then that's very close to the end, but I am going to do one more thing at the very end, because again, I used to be a science writer. Experimenting is very important to me, but at the level of natural history, anything I can do with kitchen tools, that's about it. And so you'll see an experiment that I'm going to carry through the winter, and that'll be the final end. So now let's get going with the dozen sections here, the 4th episode in my Pawpaw series of what I've been doing with minimalist ecological restoration using Pawpaw, post-industrial site here in southern Michigan, and what I've been doing this fall into the early winter. Here's the entry to the cemetery. Straight back behind there is where I'll take the forest trail to the river. That chapel's a National Historic Site. Just look at these maples. My gosh. Here's the far end of the old part of the cemetery. Little road here. And where the hidden trail starts is back there. Just started into the trail here. And looking around, here's where it continues. And this is quite a steep slope that goes off the edge here. And there's some marsh and cane fields down there, also a fen. But over in this direction, that's where the tree-filled bottomland is. I just dug a hole right here, and I'm going to be putting into it the 650 seeds gathered at Joe Grant's Pawpaw orchard last month. 650 seeds. They need to winter stratify, so I dug a hole right here, and I'm going to be putting them in. And then I'm going to be filling it in, and I've got this rope right here to show me where to come back. It's about 18 inches to the right of where this is. And I'm down here in the bottomland of the patch 8 section, and this is where I always winter stratify the pawpaw seeds. I done some last year right up about in there, but I found out when I took away the leaves, some rodent had created a tunnel there, so I needed to find a new spot. So I will bury them, and then I'll wish them, may the forest be with you. They're impervious to rodents. They are poisonous. Unfortunately, this was the beauty that had been a window box planting for site 7. This was the leftmost one. Nice stem it has, but it's completely gone now. Fortunately, we do have little ones here and 2 more over here, and the one that was nibbled off the top earlier still has 1 stem down, but this one's got a tall stem still. The one that was just eaten doesn't have quite as tall, but it's still there. They'll both come back well next summer. Correction, this was actually a 2-stemmer. I put a leaf there to show it. No wonder it had such a full amount of leaves on it. 2-stemmer. All right. This is one of the fence group closest to the trail that had been planted in a previous year, and I look at it closely. Its top is still in good shape. It's got a bud, so that means I'm going to trim off those 3 leaves so that that top apical bud on the stem won't get eaten. I just trimmed off all 3. No deer or rabbit is going to be tempted to sample it. It's not going to lose any of its short stem. This is the one right next to the trail, part of the fence group, and it has 1, 2, 3 big yellow leaves on it still. So I'm going to remove those to try to make it so the deer doesn't cut off any part of the stem. And here you can see the green pieces of leaf stem there. I just used scissors to cut them off. The only one that just came right off was this on the left. See that little knob? That was a brown leaf. I'm in the upland bed frame patch, and this is the only elder that is planted a couple years ago that's still intact. So I will be removing those 3 leaves and taking a close look at its apical stem to see if it can just start going upward even farther next year. Okay. I learned something new with this one here, and that's that when I was just touching the leaves and pushing them down a little bit, they automatically fell off without hurting any of the bud area by it. But this is a great view where you can see the apical bud. It's this, in a larger pawpaws, it's this kind of furry cat claw, they sometimes call it, right at the top. So this one's going to make it through the winter without anybody cutting off its apical. At least that's what I think. All right, I'll remove those leaves and it'll be invisible. This is on that slope right alongside on the bed frame site. And this was one of the babies that came up late. It still has its apical bud, I can see, and just a little bit of leaf left. They're diagnostic, that stem. And then as I move down over to the second baby that was also here, this one has all its leaves. It hasn't been eaten yet. I mean, it's cold. It's last of October. Now, I'm going to leave the leaves on. It's not very tall. We'll see what happens. Now, the elder next to it here, I just moved a big basswood leaf right over there so I could film it. A couple weeks ago, I noticed that this had lost all its leaves, but fortunately, you see that little curve at the top? That is the apical furry bud. So even though it lost its leaves, it was photosynthesizing all summer. So it'll be up and it's going to get bigger. It's going to get taller. This is 3A, right next to the trail. This one still has its leaves left, as does this one back here, right there. But this is so far away, I'm not going to cut the leaves back. I don't think a deer will bother it. But this one's so close. And the one that was just up here somewhere already had its totally stem and everything cut off. So I'm going to do this one right now. It is done. All right, I'm at the last part of the upland trail where it goes down steeply. There's the trail with my stick on it. And over here is the log. And here, look at that. This is an elder. Beautiful. 3 turning yellow leaves, but you can bet I'm gonna push them down and see if they fall off, and if not, I'll use my scissors to cut back. Ah, beautiful. All right, here's the one, still the one by the log, and taking a picture here, you can see the apical bud there. And what's interesting, going down the stem, it's kind of a brown stripe for what would have been the new growth this year. And then you can see right where that other stem shows coming out, that would have been last year. And then moving down, maybe, yeah, I'll put it right in the center. That would be another one. And then there it is in the ground. Very smooth stem on Pawpaw. This is a beauty. This is the portal group of pawpaws that I planted after having grown 5 together in a buttermilk carton on my east-facing window. So I am definitely removing those leaves, and then I'm going to count how many stems are there and which ones of the 5 still have apical buds. I did have to clip off almost all of the leaves. They weren't easily falling off. The 3 towards the back have all been nipped off. 2 in the front, the shortest one hasn't been nipped off, and the one on the very far left, right there, that hasn't been nipped off, but the other 3 that you can see there have been nipped off. So I'll go in and see if I can, yeah, you can see the kind of furry cat claw there on the left. So that one will head up, but you can see those other 3 there have been nipped off. This is site 5E, and there are 6 little ones that I can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, oh yeah, 5, and then up there, I can't see it through here, but there's a 6th one there. And you can see I planted these really late germinated seeds, and so they're not tall. So I'm just going to leave these. They still have green leaves. Maybe they can photosynthesize a little bit more. And also because there's so many of them here, even if several get clipped off, that's okay. Because ultimately in each of these patches, it'll only be a few that ever become tall. so we can have some sacrifice. All right, little ones, may the forest be with you. This is 5D, and this is really important for me to have seen this. This is the first time that it has lost its leaves. It was pretty big. I was here just 4 days ago and it still had leaves. But what's significant is all the leaves are gone, but right there in the center, that's the apical bud. It didn't get hurt. So if an herbivore just takes the leaves, it's possible to have an apical bud. So I'm going to take a close look at the only other one here. You can see how much shorter this one is, and it does have an exposed apical bud, but I'm just going to let it keep photosynthesizing, and we'll see what happens over the winter. Listen to those robins. I'm pausing here right by a lonicera. I'm on the trail. You can see the red berries, because this is one of the things that lonicera does really well. It feeds the migrating robins. Listen to all of them. This is why the robins are here. You can't see the red berries on it from this distance, but this is the part of the trail that's really just the lonicera area, except for the big walnut. My gosh, listen to them. That has May apples around it in the spring. But yeah, look at this. Old growth lonicera, a newcomer. October 11th, this is patch 6, and this one has certainly turned into a trail right through here, and this is where one set was planted of weeded and planted germinated seeds. And you can see this has turned into a trail through here, and I just pointed out there's one in here, and then the trail can continue there, and then of course over here. This is where still have this set of 5 potted window plants that I planted out. This is patch 1.5, and here are the 3 pawpaws that I'd grown in a window box. And one over there. You can see they're still full here. I'm definitely going to cut off the leaves, but what I want to show you here is, you can see right there, this is a deer trail. This really is a deer trail, and I started to cut back a little bit here. I'm going to cut this back so that hopefully they'll go along the right-hand side. But 4 days ago when I was here is the first time I explored back there. And I'm going to plant, there's some incredible places back there to plant where there's been tree falls. And look, this is a absolutely gorgeous, that's a butternut tree there. It's still in leaf. The walnuts have lost theirs, but this is still, it's a big one at the base here. But there are a number of places back there that I am going to be planting. So, there, but this trail, if they can just go through, so I'm going to make it really easy for them and me to go through there. I've got clippers with me today. All right, I just finished my pruning. If you're a deer, look at that. There's a trail right through there. Now you're going to stay to the right of this thing, so you're going to go right through here. So we'll take a little stroll. And then you see, ooh, there's a rock there. I'm not going to step on that rock. There's another rock there. I'm going to stay right on this trail here. I'm just going to walk right here. Don't want to step on those rocks. Look how easy it is. Nothing nothing comes out alongside me here. So have to duck out under one thing here. Stay away from that loop of grapevine there. But look at this splendid. That's a butternut. So I cut down a lot of stuff here that made me have to go under, and so I cut it back. I had a little saw, so it wasn't just pruning clips. I had a little saw. But look at this gorgeous. I discern that this is a butternut. Very, very different bark from what a walnut has. It's got the same kind of leaves as a walnut has. You can see up there. Very similar. And coming back down the trunk here. And here's the base. And then here, I really didn't have to cut much here. Oh, a little bit right over in here I did. But look at this. This is like a fabulous, fabulous deer trail and human trail now. And I've also explored over in there, but there's some great places around here to plant. And so deer, I'm hoping for a little reciprocity here. I made a really nice trail for you, so just stay on it and don't step on my pawpaws. Okay, well, look at you all. May the forest, but not the deer, be with you, and I'm going to relieve you of your leaves. So here's a look before I take off the leaves. And the two to the right here are starting to yellow. I decided to leave the leaves intact here because when I look close, a higher level of leaves must have been nipped off because it's been nipped. There's no apical bud to protect. But these two over here both had apicals, and so there's the leaves underneath the end of that one there. I did have to snip off the leaves except for the lowest one. And that's the same for here. Oh yeah, there it is. You can see the little tiny green stubs of where the leaves were. And then, wow. Yeah, look at right at the top. You can see that kind of light brown apical. Just marvelous. November 2nd, 2 days later, I'm back at patch 1.5. Here's the pawpaw with a rock, and then where I had removed the leaves from the others. But this, remember, this is the trail that I had cut. The deer had already made it, but I made it so that they wouldn't veer off of it. And what I did today is I took it all the way out to the ephemeral pond that's now mud. So it's a circle trip that can be made now. One little spot here that needs to be ducked under. Heading through. We're getting close to that incredibly gorgeous butternut. Yeah, right there. Ornithera right next to it. And looking up. And back around to the butternut. And continuing on the trail, pretty easy to see here where it goes. So I'd already opened this up 2 days ago and pretty much stopped here, but it was fairly clear here. It didn't take me much to be able to clear through here. And if this becomes like a regular Parks and Recreation trail, I would strongly advise keeping logs like this. Keep it a wilderness trail so we won't get the bikes and the motorized vehicles through here, which I can hear up in the housing development up above. So I think that's actually a cottonwood tree. Is that what? I don't know, but you can see there's a lot of Lonicera here. And easy walking through here again, though Lonicera, Amur, honeysuckle just doesn't let things grow. Variety of ways to get through here. I had to do a little bit. The main pruning and using a handsaw I needed to do was around. Now this is interesting. You would think by looking at all the walnuts, old walnuts around here, that this might be a walnut tree. No, this is just where they were stored. And this apparently is a cottonwood. I can't see the leaves from here, but I did check it out. So we continue through here. Let's take a look where we're going. Number of ways through here. I tend to go in this direction. I did clean out some branches that had already fallen so that, you know, you don't trip over things. But here's another example of certainly leave that. Now this is where we're getting into the spot where I had to do a lot of pruning. And got to step over this and go under this. Very easy to do. Step over this and go underneath this grapevine here. And then, wow, look how it opens up here. Deer have some kind of a trail through here. I'm not going to bother with that one, at least not for now. That doesn't really look like I would want to plant any pawpaw there. But this is a way to do a whole circuit of through all the pawpaw patches. So as I head out here, I tend to go to the right of the tree here. And look how open it is. And those, those are the red maples there that are in the ephemeral pond. See a little evidence of a buck scrape here. There's about 3 buck scrapes on the trail that I tend to use. And this is just easy walking through here. The way I find it back, this is a really important vertical. I'll show it when I get to the other side, but I look for this and then I follow it back in, and that's how I find the trail. So we'll just go right along this here, number of ways through here. There's another set of maples in here. Golly, I wonder if that's a different kind of maple. I'll have to look when I get over there. So, now I walk a little over this way, number of ways to go. And this is where you can see right ahead, there's that metal plate right along there, and then farther on there. And that signifies that I'm right in the place, right in here, which is 8H. That's the last one of 8 that I planted. But once I go in there, I can circuit all the way back around. And so, anyway, let me walk over here and take a look at this. Take a look at this maple here. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's a maple. Oh. Huh. I wonder, no, that's gotta be, that's not the bark you find on a sugar maple. And a sugar maple wouldn't be sitting with its roots so much in the water. So this is, well, no, it's not a silver, is it a silver maple? No, the leaves aren't skinny enough. Anyway, here it is. So, starting back this way, I just kind of watch my step and look for that long log here, right here. And then this is how I know to follow up to get back in that trail. Okay, well, let me take a little turn here, and you can see how steep that the moraine goes up there. Those are trees along the cemetery up there. And we're down in the bottomland that used to have been a floodplain, but probably during the lumber era, a lot of erosion, the river cut down. And so now it's just a glorious bottomland that just really never floods, except for this ephemeral pond right here. November 10th. This is the first snow, very early snow. Snowed yesterday. It's still below freezing today. So I decided today that I'm going to take another walk through the cemetery trail there, beyond the cemetery, into the forest trail, down to the bottomland, and take a look and see how the existing pawpaw leaves are doing, and also seeing if deer have started to use my new trail. Let's get started. November 10th, patch 4A. We had snow yesterday, and it's below freezing still, just slightly today, despite the sun. And you can see how dead those pawpaw leaves are. Here's another one over here. And see some large catalpa leaves here that have fallen. We do have catalpa in this forest. And a lot of those little green ones, those are the Lonicera, Amur honeysuckles that are actually falling. They don't turn yellow or brown, they just fall. And you can see it's quite open here where there's actually some snow that has fallen. And around here is the big walnut. So, all right, so they're going to be safe now. Nobody's going to come and snip off the apical while going for the leaves. So this is good. Patch 6, and this is a set of 5 planted all together here, and you can see there's just a few dead leaves still on after the snow that we had yesterday and the cold that we have now. It's still below freezing. And where I'm standing, this area I had weeded and planted, but now it's very clearly a trail, and that's okay. Patch 1, November 10th, after snow. Here you can see they just fall right off. And you can see the nettle is long gone. There's still some privet here. And here's the snow along here. Patch 1. I've got 1 foot on the trail that connects patches 1, 2, and 3 and continues. My other on a log here, and as I look up, this is patch 1.5, and golly, that looks like a trail to me. Let's go walk it. First stop will be right here, where we've got the one pawpaw that I didn't cut the leaves off of. You can see those are dying. There's the rock. And look at, we've got some fresh prints through here that are of a kind that it looks like it was running. There's another one here. And then looking up, there the trail continues. So I'm going to follow it, and I'll just film anything that looks interesting until I get to the ephemeral pond. I had to pause here because I'm standing by the big butternut, and just a little over a week ago, if that, yeah, it's November 10th, look at that. All the leaves are gone. That snowstorm, that wind, yeah, it's winter up there. I just came to the ephemeral pond, but first I'm looking back to, you can see the thickness of the Lonicera here, and there's still robins and there's still berries on there. Very, very icy feeling on the leaves through here. And golly, as I look through here, that definitely looks like a trail to me. So let's head out. So looking back at the open trail that I just came through from there, walking in this direction, coming to where it gets very open, standing on the trail that I made, look at where it connects to this trail. This is a monster trail through here. A lot of new footprints on here, deer prints. Continues over there. Yeah, look at that. I'm in the ephemeral pond now, right where the last one planted of patches 8H is there. And here are the maples, and golly, they've just about lost all their leaves. And then, of course, this maple here is the one that has the diagnostic old metal plate by it, that you know that you're in the right set. So I'm going to continue over to there and walk the trail I made through all of the 8A through 8H sections in reverse. Standing on the slope at the 8A part of this track here, and this is the log that's got the rope on it where a little over a week ago I put in for winter stratification more than 600 seeds of pawpaw, and it's undisturbed. Looks good. November 5th, 2025, out at Marc Boone's Pawpaw Orchard. My brother and I just did. You can see there's a few leaves left on this one here, but really looking for the rotten ones underneath the trees. And so as I go around slowly here, and then back up to my brother's truck. My brother helped me with this. All right. So 2 buckets. Bill collected a lot of green ones. I mostly went for the moldy, rotten ones. But they'll all be good. And then around here, there's a view of the orchard. Pawpaws in through here, and especially this is where we were doing them, in through here. And persimmons are beyond. All right, Marc Boone's November 5th, 2025, rescuing pawpaw seeds for use in reforesting subcanopy trees. November 6th, a cold fall day. I think it's close to 50 now, but sunny on the south-facing porch of the main floor that I rent in the old historic district in Ypsilanti. And here you can see my area that I've set up for cleaning today. Most important thing, I don't want to do this inside, but while my brother collected green fruits like this, hard green fruits, not moldy in any way. These are just a few that I collected in my batch here of mostly rotted and some with quite a bit of mold showing. I'll show some on the plate I've already pulled out here. But my job today is basically to clean through here, not to do a complete clean, but just to make it so that I'm not carrying mold inside into the inside air. So for example, I've already started, but here's a group that I pulled out. You can see these are all brown rotten, but a couple of them do have mold on the outside. And again, I'm not doing a super clean. Here you can see the first set that I've done. Not super clean, but small enough that I will then be able to put them in the fridge until I have time to fully work on them. And then here's the dregs of the ones that I've already worked on, and this will go into the composter that I have outside. So here's the little table I set up, chair I sit in. Here's a water that I can periodically wash my hands off in, and cloth, and ultimately I'll be putting the seeds as I get them more and more from here. I'll be putting them into here. But actually, let me walk down and show the composter. This is really, really useful to have because there's going to be a lot of pulp, and of course I'll have to add leaves to it. So here's the composter, and I've been working on this side recently. Still a few fruit flies can survive in there, but this is where I'll be putting, and maybe to balance it off I'll go off to the other side too. So this is the composter. So yeah, I'm lucky to have a beautiful sunny day just one day after my brother and I collected all these pawpaws, so that I can then continue the process indoors. And what's going to happen to all the green fruits, actually I'll wait till I go inside to talk about that. Just one little sweat bee I see just landed in there. Yeah, I'll go inside now and show you. So this is what my brother collected. He was focused on the green fruits, but you can see how much is there. It'll be really interesting. Certainly I'll have over 1,000 seeds. It'll be interesting to see whether I get more than 3,000, maybe more than 5,000. But once I get through the rotted ones outdoors today, I can really take my time getting to these. And I tested doing one. In fact, I'll go to the kitchen and show that. Here's one that I just opened and got all the seeds out, and the half on the right, I used a spoon to scoop out the rest of the pulp and eat that, and the pulp, so half on the left, I haven't yet scooped out to eat after I remove the seeds. And I had to clean the seeds really well. A lot of pulp kind of sticks to them, so it's important to clean out. Important to clean out the seeds. A couple hours later, there on the left side of the underside of this rotting pawpaw, you can see some white larvae. These are the larvae of the very sap beetles that attend to the pollination. I've been saving these as I find them. I can't save them all, but quite a few I've piled up here. So here's how far I've gotten. I'm rinse off my hand in here. This is a third one that I'm filling up of this, of seeds in process here. Found one that, look at all that, that would actually be edible, but this is where the flies land instead of coming over onto my plate. And you can see how I am almost to the bottom here. And again, you can see a lot of the blue mold. And what's interesting is, really, I found most of the larvae in the ones that had the blue mold. November 7th, 1,030 seeds I counted from the rotten bucket, where I did kind of a cleaning yesterday, but a much better cleaning today. November 23rd, I've just put in for winter stratification 1,500 pawpaw seeds right there, and I'll be able to tell where it is, find it again because of this structure here, this little tree right in here, and right beneath this kind of rodent swept area in here. So I'm going to show you now. I took pictures along the way of how I did the process and how I used mosquito net to help me be able to retrieve the pawpaw seeds after a full winter stratification. I've got 1,500 pawpaw seeds in here, sphagnum moss in between each layer of 500, and I just finished digging this out. I think this should be big enough. And here's what it looks like heading up slope from here. And you can see the Lonicera. Still green, though they have dropped a lot. They have dropped a lot of leaves. Okay, I'm going to put some mosquito net down at the bottom and put in the seeds. Okay, 1,500 seeds all fit down there. I pulled out most of the sphagnum moss, and off to the that side there I kind of created a bit of a tunnel back there so they were able to scoot really under. So now I'll cut the mosquito net, put it over, and refill. I ended up just folding the mosquito net over. This way I'll be able to reuse it next year. I filled in most of the dirt and then put a aluminum pie tin up here with holes in it, just so that when I'm trying to find this again, I can plunge a knife down, and when I hit the pie tin, I'll be able to know that I'm there. So I'll put in the rest now. Okay, I just finished right where the trowel is, under there. And the way for me to find it is this little tree here. If I move horizontally to the left about 2 feet, and then about 6 inches up, that's where I'll find it. It's also this area, some kind of a rodent probably keeps that scraped free there, so it's directly below where the rodent pathway is. And then again, it's right in this little area. So there's the place where I just put in the pawpaw seeds, 1,500 for winter stratification. And this, I'm standing right along site 8A. This is where there are 2 pawpaw seedlings that have had 2 summers of growth potential. In here, and then up in here somewhere. And then 2 more that were also put in as germinated seeds that had 2 full summers of growth opportunity is just two of them right in here. I'm hoping the deer don't step on them. I've got rocks along the sides. But there won't be any leaves left now. I cut off the leaves just before it got very, very cold to ensure that the deer or any rabbit or anything passing by wouldn't just kind of clip off the leaves, and by that remove the important apical bud that's at the very upper tip of the stem, so that next year, instead of having to regrow, they can grow taller starting at the apical bud. All right, I'm going to continue going around and go all the way through 8 B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and that'll take me out to the ephemeral pond, and then head on over to the river and through the new trail that I've connected. And then the river's over here, and then ultimately I'll go through my other patches and then come back around to the circuit, to the portal trees, and then head up this area here. There's a trail that goes up to the very top area. I won't be taking video unless I see anything, but just to let you know that where this is planted is the main slope in this area. One more thing, right standing exactly where I was, and there's my stick. Take a look at how the Lonicera are starting to lose their leaves, and the leaves just stay green and they fall. But as you look around, in fact, this is a beautiful spot to see it. You can see the height that they grow and how they are dominant in the subcanopy here. And again, my whole process for this minimalist approach to ecological restoration is to ultimately have the pawpaw that spreads by underground stems heading up, and it can grow taller than the Lonicera, so ultimately it can shade it out. Lonicera needs a lot of sun to stay alive. November 28th. It's been 18 days since I was out in the bottomland forest right after the first snow of the year, and that's when I was showing the photos of the remaining leaves on the pawpaw out there dying. Well, this is the final experiment I'm doing this year, and this is the last group of germinated seeds that I was establishing here at my east-facing window. And these still have their green leaves, obviously. They're at room temperature. So my experiment is just simply to see how long will pawpaw hold on to these leaves if it's not outdoors in cold weather. And then next spring, is it going to know to start growing again? So the very last thing I'll do after I turn off my camera is what I often do when I visit these. I will exhale on the pawpaw leaves and give them my carbon dioxide. So that's it for the 4th episode of my Pawpaw series. I'm Connie Barlow, November 28th, 2025, and may the forest be with you.